Sympathy for him, even though I loved his comedy albums growing up. Given all the women's lives he ruined, his spokesman, Andrew Wyatt, is blaming a racist and sexist trial and a racist and sexist media. Sorry, Cosby was found guilty based on the evidence in the Andrea Constand case, and at sentencing, he didn't utter a single word of remorse. MSNBC's Joy Reid has been sued for defamation by a California woman named Rosalind La Liberté, who was captured in a viral photo wearing a Make America Great Again hat in what looked like a heated debate with a teenage boy. You see that moment in a tweeted apology from Reid. It appears I got this wrong. My apologies to Mrs. La Liberté and Joseph. Reid, who's made no public comment, had retweeted that the woman had yelled at 14-year-old Joseph Luvanos and called him a dirty Mexican. In fact, Joseph, who was born in this country, says he appreciated their talk and that everything was civil. And the video shows them hugging at the end. Why would Joy Reid, who's apologized also for hateful postings a decade ago, make this baseless charge in the first place? That's it for this edition of Media Buzz. I'm Howard Kurtz. This is the most emotional show we've ever had on such an emotional topic as the Kavanaugh hearings. Check out my media podcast, Media Buzz Meter. We click around the day's 5 most important or interesting stories. You can subscribe at Apple iTunes or Google Play or FoxNewsPodcast.com. Continue the conversation on Twitter at Howard Kurtz. Check out our Facebook page. We post my videos and columns. I'm out of time. See you next Sunday.
Back on reports that it's working to limit the scope of the FBI investigation into Judge Brett Kavanaugh. Sources telling Fox News the administration wants the Bureau to focus on credible and current accusations and to avoid a so-called fishing expedition. Hello and welcome to America's News Headquarters. I'm Mike Emanuel.
And I'm Molly Line. Meanwhile, President Trump is standing behind his Supreme Court nominee defending Judge Kavanaugh during last night's rally in West Virginia, suggesting Democrats are focused on stopping the nomination at any cost.
On Thursday, the American people saw the brilliant and really incredible character, quality, and courage of our nominee for the United States Supreme Court, Judge Brett Kavanaugh. I will tell you, he has suffered the meanness, the anger.
We have Kevin Corke reporting live from the White House on all of this. Kevin, good morning.
Molly, good afternoon to you. As you've heard Judge Kavanaugh say emphatically, I will never quit, ever. And it's that sort of resolve, quite honestly, that the White House is banking on in the face of the continued allegations and the onslaught of Democratic Party maneuvers to try to delay the vote. But it is still those allegations, Molly, that, frankly, has opened the door for a supplemental background investigation, as Mike pointed out just a moment ago. Now, the latest news includes the FBI reaching out to the attorney of accuser Deborah Ramirez, a clear indication now that the probe will, in fact, go well beyond looking into allegations leveled by Dr. Christine Blasey Ford, who, as everyone has heard by now, claimed that as a high school boy, Kavanaugh tried to rape her. Last night at a Make America Great rally in the great state of West Virginia, the president once again reiterated his support for his embattled high court nominee.
A vote for Judge Kavanaugh is also a vote to reject the ruthless and outrageous tactics of the Democrat Party. Mean obstructionists, mean resistors. For the last 18 months, Democrats have spent every minute trying to overturn the results of the last election.
So the president making clear his opinion on this. This is all happening, by the way, Molly, as the White House is facing new allegations, both by the Wall Street Journal and you may have heard NBC News, alleging that the White House is trying to limit the scope of the FBI investigation. That's something that White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders rejected on Fox News Sunday.
The White House counsel has allowed the Senate to dictate what these terms look like and what the scope of the investigation is. Again, the White House isn't intervening. We're not micromanaging this process. This is something, it's a Senate process. It has been from the beginning, and we're letting the Senate continue to dictate what the terms look like.
So you heard her mention there, it's a Senate process, and the White House is confident and content to let them do what they will do. They set the parameters here. They believe that the FBI will follow the leads where they take them, and they still, by the way, Molly, hope to wrap up the probe by the end of the week. We'll be watching carefully from our perch here at the White House, but for now, back to you.
All right, Kevin Corke, thank you so much. For more on all of this, let's bring in Andrew McCarthy, a former U.S. attorney and a Fox News contributor. Andrew, thanks for staying around for us this afternoon. We appreciate it. Let's kick
My
off with
pleasure.
this.
Thank you.
We'll start here. You've written this column, as you do for the National Review, and you took a pretty straightforward position on this, that the investigation, that Republicans shouldn't have agreed to what you view as a delay.
Right. It's a delay, and inevitably what happened is President Trump gave them the investigation they wanted, and as night follows day, they then said that the investigation's being politicized by the president. Now they have to have an investigation of the investigation, which will result in more delay. And the whole objective of this, no matter what they do, no matter what they say, no matter what value they claim to be protecting, what they are trying to do here is push this nomination process beyond the midterms, by their lights, hopefully win the Senate, and then beat Kavanaugh on the numbers rather than on all these different issues that have come up.
Now, in the column, you argue that if the FBI, finds no bombshell, if there's no irrefutable proof of an attack at any point in the lifetime of Judge Kavanaugh, that still won't be enough, that the investigation would then be criticized by the Democrats.
Yeah, they're already laying the groundwork to do that. That's what this whole complaint now about Trump politicizing the investigation and narrowing the scope of it. Last week they were complaining there was no investigation. Now he gives them an investigation. They complain it's too narrow. If they come back and they don't find anything, they'll say it was politicized. And if they come back and have any other finding that they don't like, we'll revert to the usual Democrat position, which is that, the FBI is not the final word on anything. They're the final word.
Yeah. The Wall Street Journal reported that the FBI was specifically instructed by the White House to interview just 2 of the women who have accused Judge Kavanaugh and not a third. Essentially, the allegation in this article is that the White House is controlling things, limiting the scope of the investigation. We just heard the press secretary, Sarah Sanders. She spoke on Fox News Sunday today saying regarding that, not that I'm aware of the White House counsel, that they've allowed the Senate to dictate what's going on. Do you think that sort of backs up the argument you're making, that they're going to say, this wasn't a fair investigation, the White House was behind all of this? The Wall Street Journal not citing any specific sources, just people familiar with the matter, Andrew.
Yeah, well, that's exactly how it's going to be played. The White House has now given them what they wanted, but what they actually want is delay. So what they're going to say about this is it hinges on whatever will be the easiest avenue toward delay. So naturally what they'll say is that the White House limited it. In the meantime, what we heard last week is, if the Senate wants an FBI investigation and they call for one, the FBI is likely to go out and interview whoever they want interviewed. So all of this is a sideshow. This vote should have been taken 2.5 weeks ago. They're never going to be satisfied because satisfaction in terms of getting to the bottom line of what happened is not what this is about. This is about delay.
Well, Andrew, I do want to get to this because the president has pushed back pretty specifically on these sorts of reports, and he actually hits NBC News in a tweet saying NBC News incorrectly reported, as usual, that I was limiting the FBI investigation of Judge Kavanaugh and witnesses only to certain people. Actually, I want them to interview whoever they deem appropriate at their discretion. Please correct your reporting. Would that offer any satisfaction to the Democrats, to anyone who is critical of this, what could be potentially just a week-long investigation that's been called for and agreed to at this point in time? Would that simmer anyone who thinks this investigation is being controlled by someone other than the FBI, by their agents?
Molly, I don't think what this is about at this point is the president influencing Democrats and Democrats trying to influence the president and the Republicans in a normal process. I think what both sides are doing now is trying to make their case to the public. The president understands that the Democrats are going to be out there now that he's given them the investigation they wanted, saying that he's politicizing the investigation. He now wants to make clear that he's not politicizing the investigation, and he wants the FBI to interview anyone who's relevant. This is just a play for public opinion. I do believe the president is saying to the FBI, investigate anybody who's relevant and interview anyone who's relevant. I don't think they're going to stop interviews, but I don't think that's going to stop the Democrats from saying that the White House is controlling the investigation.
And there's also the theory that this investigation essentially offers the political cover that those moderates that are on the fence that have yet to say if they're going to vote for Judge Kavanaugh's confirmation or not, a little bit of political cover. Now, if the FBI investigation is not wrapped up by the end of the week, what do the Republicans do?